Alrighty, so for the code challenge, and I actually did name it code challenge in this case because that's what it is. I've given you a markdown file, so let's go look at that. Okay, so in this case, you're going to take the start async function that he wrote, that he showed us to get the weather, and I'll just bring that up real quick so you have it. Now I have mine commented out because below is the solution that I'll go over next. So in this case, this is the async function that he gave us to do the await function, do the fetch, call the URL endpoint, get back the data, and then we have to call another await for the JSON because it doesn't come back the way it comes back, I believe, is as a promise, and then you have to call JSON on it to get it as JSON data. And then you actually have to dig into that. And this is what I was showing you in the last one, was how to actually drill down and find that. Okay. So in this case, you're going to take this, right, this function, and you're going to do some work to it. So what is the work? Well, you're going to implement first, you're going to refactor. So the first thing is you're going to do a refactor. You're going to rewrite that start into an async function, but it'll be a named arrow function. Okay, so in this case, this is just more of getting experience with how to write that. And we actually haven't seen this yet, but I'll give you a little hint. You put the async after the equals. And then you implement also, in this case, a try catch. Okay, and the on success and on error. And actually color code mentions this in his video, is like that would be a good thing to do. So I thought, yeah, it is a good thing to do. So you rewrite it, you implement the try catch, you have an on success. The on success should output to the console whatever the weather is. Okay, and then you have an on error as well function. Okay. Oh yeah, so you implement these. Actually, it's not into the start. It's actually just as part of this code base, right? Because that was the idea, is to move them out, do the try catch block, but then say on success, right? On try, on success. Then when it is successful, what do? And then what do you do on error? You have everything you need, and this is just a refactor. Okay, so when you're done with this refactor, then it should output the same thing, but it should implement these things. Okay, and now we're going to move on. So now we're actually going to take that URL, and I just gave it to you here just to remind us. And then you're going to look at the docs. And this is such an important part of API work, is actually being able to read documentation and determine, because in this case we want to change to Fresno. Well, it's kind of hard just looking at this to know what these are, but I'm going to show you how I found it and give you a way to find this information for Fresno. So I've given you the link, but by the way, because the API, right, we have been using, you could just go to api.gov, weather.gov. That's kind of the way you find documentation, is you look at the URL endpoint. Not always, but sometimes. But in this case, I found the full API documentation, and that's what this is. Now, when I came in, I looked at overview, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this looks pretty good. It didn't mean anything, nothing here I needed, and I didn't need an API key, which is great. But I did look at examples, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's right. So the URL endpoint, the API endpoint we were using was like this format, because we had, and if you look back, right, actually it was there, we have grid points, station. Okay, so this is the endpoint that is past the station and the grid points. Okay, so sorry, the office and the grid X and grid Y for the forecast. Well, how do you find that for Fresno? Well, all you need to know is here, right? You just call this with the latitude and longitude of Fresno, and you'll get this information, which is really fun. So how do you get lat and long for Fresno? You simply ask any one you want on either the Googles or the whatevers, what is the lat and long for Fresno. The one thing I'll give you a little hint on, when you get back longitude, it won't have a negative, but when you enter it, you have to have a negative. Okay, and so when you get that, you're going to get back the information you need to then change your API endpoint to then go to Fresno. Okay, so now Now what I want you to do, and this is just going to show you the output. Now I'm not showing you the code, but now I've refactored mine, and of course this is what I will show you next on the solution, but is on success mostly clear. And I could definitely, and I'll show you, matter of fact, I'll pause and generate the on error. So here's the on error. I actually just took out .gov, and then I got the on error, and it's failed to fetch. So that's the error that was passed to the on error. So I now have tested both of those conditions. Okay, so now what you'll do, right, and I'll have this in here, I forgot to put it, is you'll give me your attempt. So I'll look at this. Now, by the way, you could actually do this one if you didn't get this one done, right? But this will be like half the points of getting this one and half of it from getting this one. But again, the idea of what I talked about in attendance, tell me what you tried, right? Tell me what you tried. I'll give you some points for effort of trying, but of course the thing you want to do here is actually get this as, you know, as close as you can, or show you've made effort. That's how I grade this stuff, okay? So give me your commit history for this one, and then what you will do next is you will watch my solution and modify if needed. All right. That'll be next. Commit your URL, and then you'll come back, or you'll not have to resubmit. You'll actually just update your commit message if you needed to change. All right, have fun with this. It really is fun, and it's such a good skill.